Hi, this is Mr. Haig, and today I'm going to be teaching you two painting techniques. I have my two sample boards here and samples of where these techniques have been applied within famous paintings. First of all, we're going to look at stippling paint. Initially, you need to set up a palette full of acrylic paints. Acrylic paint is a thicker paint and it allows us to work with texture and tone. So how do we hold our brush for the stippling technique? Well, we hold our brush vertically and we literally place our brush, just the tip of it, and dip it into our acrylic. It's a really simple technique. It's a dry brush, so you should automatically get some texture, leaving some gaps, like so. You can see that texture building up. Now what I'm going to do now is, I'm not going to wash my brush because we need to keep it dry. I'm actually now going to dip it into the yellow. I'm going to work over the top. And now what happens is you still maintain that texture, but you create areas of orange and some areas of yellow because naturally they will blend the colours. We might just want to work over the top again. Just add a little bit more yellow. Yellow is a weaker colour than red, so we need to make sure that we're applying a little bit more. Now, it may be the case that you want to leave areas of white, so don't overwork it. It's entirely up to you. But as you can see on the painting there, you can see how I've tried to actually reproduce the colour tones that I used in this painting and the texture. Right, okay, so that's technique one, which is stippling paints. Now I'm going to demonstrate how to blend paint. I've got a famous painting here, which I think we all will recognise. This is the Mona Lisa. The paint has been applied smoothly to try and reproduce the texture of skin, which is smooth. So I've changed my brush for this one. So I've got a smoother brush. I'm just going to wet it slightly to try and get it smoother. All right, so the brush hairs stay together, like so. As you can see, I've already done a little sample here of some colour mixing to try and reproduce the tones of the actual skin tones here. Right, so let's start. Well, initially I'm going to go for the darker areas. So I'm going to use this brown here. I'm going to mix an area here. I'm going to do a little bit thicker on there. And to make it a little bit darker, I'm going to add a little bit of blue. There we go, get that really rich chocolatey tone. Now, how I'm going to blend this, I'm actually going to do it almost like in the same direction. Because when you're doing blending, you have to follow the direction of the object that you're trying to reproduce. So nice smooth strokes. I've not loaded my brush up too much. I've just got it on the tip of my brush. So I've got control of what I'm doing. Now it does dry quickly, so I'm going to quickly go back to mixing. Now to try and get a lighter tone, I'm actually going to add a yellow to the edge of where I've just mixed. And then I'm going to blend in just like that over the top. Again, there's not much of a change as you can see there, but if I go back to my mixing here, I'm going to work towards the edge of where I've just previously tried to mix my different tone. You can start to see that's changing up a little bit. Now I've got a little bit too much of my previous paint on there, so I'm just going to roll my brush on the side just to get rid of the excess. And then I'm going to work back in with a little bit of yellow. And go back to blending. So I'm working over the top of where I've just been. Now a clever little technique to blend, because you can see it's a bit stripy there. You can't see me, but I'm actually taking the paint off. I'm just putting it on my hand, but you can put it on a tissue. Now I've got a dry brush now, so I can start working in with a dry brush between the two tones. And that helps to blend in the colours, like we can see there. So I'm going to move on to a lighter tone. Again, adding a little bit of yellow in there. I'm actually going to add a little bit of white as well. Now to warm this up a little bit so it's a bit more of a flesh tone, I'm actually going to add a little bit of red. And you can see that warms up the colour nicely. Just going to roll my brush around so I've got an even amount. And again, I'm going to just dry off my brush and I'm just going to work in that paint with a dry brush to try and get a nice smooth tone blending. Now you could carry on working into that with some lighter tones. I could go even a little bit more white in terms of the tones, so I could mix that over the top, that white. Those light areas. Again, you could add just a little bit of red to just warm up the skin tone, the flesh tone. And then just work over the top. I'm using a circular technique here. I find that's the best way of trying to blend in the top. Now you can really start to see that it's got a really smooth finish. Okay, so let's have a look at the Mona Lisa. You can see closely there. You look at mine, very similar in its technique. And then I've got a sample which you could do there as well, where you're working from the top to the bottom and just creating a colour bar to practice with. It's up to you. And then when you feel more confident, then you can start to try and apply that technique onto different shapes, following the direction with your brush strokes. Okay, thank you very much. Bye.